outline of a whole chapter of the Bible. We're going to do Galatians. Today's just going to be an introduction. So today's more just note taking. Once we get, I think me and Pastor just talked about it. We're going to do a printout. We're going to download it. And what it's going to do is going to give us the student copies. Instead of buying the books and you have this book to carry around, we're going to make copies of it and then get you the 3 link notebooks and put them in and give everybody a copy that way. So you're going to have copies. It's going to be fill in the blanks. So each week we'll come in and we'll just kind of go through it slowly. I think it's supposed to be like a 9-week lesson, but I can stretch it out to probably Christmas. I know how they go. I mean, sometimes just one point you can spend an hour on. And that's what we want to do with Galatians this week or the next few months. We do want to take our time with it. So if you ever miss a week, I'm one, when I'm doing lessons, I hate filling in blanks because if you miss a week, you got all the blanks. Come and see me. I'll give you the answers. I have no problem with that. And mine's going to have all the cheat sheets on it. I can let you borrow mine, fill in your blanks, because I know how later on you go look at your notes and you got that one page and like, I would like to know what that says. I will fill you in, or I will even make you a copy if you just want to make a copy of the answers. Because like if you're anything like me, I have to cheat off my wife's paper to spell it correctly. I know the word, I just don't know how to spell it correctly. So just a couple of little notes that we're going to go over today to get us set up for it, right? Is Galatians is a book that, how many of y'all know who wrote Galatians? I know Lee knows this one. Lee, who wrote Galatians? There you go, Paul. Good job, Lee. And Mom for the help. And you're in 11th grade or 12th grade? 10th. Okay, we'll give them the 10th grade. Freshman, I would have said, yeah, that's understandable. You forget everything when you become a freshman. And then you forget everything else when you hit senior, too. It's called the senior blues. You know, you're going to hit them. And then Mom's going to hit the senior blues at the end of the year because one of her babies are graduating. Dad would be like, yes, another one's out of the house. Right? But with Galatians, we know who Paul. Maddie, we'll let you have this one. Do you know when it was written? No? Okay. But I didn't either. So do you know that one? Anybody know that one? Okay. It's funny because they give you 2 dates. It's between 45 and 65 AD. Right? After death. And reason they give you these dates because I'm going to ask you this one, and everybody I did not know this until I started beginning my studies. Do you know who Galatians was written to? Anybody? But which ones? And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. This is a north and south. I did not know this. That's when it depends on when it was written. It says if it was written to the south, it would have been 45, because that's when he was in that area. He was in doing that area. But if it was but if he was in the north, it would have been later when he was in jail, writing to them, and so that would have been a little bit later time. So it all depends on who he was writing to. They don't tell you. We really don't. We know it's Galatians, right, to the people, but we don't know if it was the north or the south. I didn't realize it was 2 groups until I started doing my study. So that's why they give you a little bit of the time frame when it was, because they can't narrow it down if it was to the north or to the south. And that was just something that I thought was interesting in doing this study. So that's what things we're going to find out when we do this study. It's going to do it chapter by chapter each week, but I'm not going to try to rush through. It's only 6 chapters, and they say it's 9 weeks long. I think if we get a spot where we want to dig into it deeper, we'll stop. I'm going to ask questions like I'm doing today. It's really interesting to know why Galatians was written. We knew we wrote him to the Galatians, but do we know why we wrote Galatians? Why did Paul write the letter? And we're like, well, I mean, it was because a lot of the Jews was coming into the church and saying, hey, for you to be saved, you have to be circumcised. They were trying to push old law onto the Galatians, and the Galatians were like, what do we do? They wanted to follow Jesus, and this was to put in law to say, hey, look, it ain't law, Jesus' law for this to be circumcised no more. That's old law. And that's where a lot of Paul's writing was to diffuse Old Testament from New Testament. And that's where a lot of churches had big issues with Paul, because they liked a lot of the old laws. The old laws kind of helped out the churches. Well, don't help out the churches. Now it's all about the money, and the old laws kind of benefit the old churches. And you follow us, you do what we do, because that's what God said. Right? And Jesus came and took all them laws away. You don't have to follow the church and the rules like that no more. And that's where one of the Galatians, the book of Galatians was about, is to help take away some of the misrepresentation of old law to new law. Right? People are Old Testament, New Testament. We'll go set a law. So when we first get into Galatians, chapter 1 and 2 is him diffusing a lot of the problems that was going on during that time. So when we get in chapter 1 and 2, we're going to talk about probably diffusing a lot of the different laws that were going on and trying to get everybody to come together, because I know Barb's been through it. I know a lot of you guys have been through it. You've been to churches many years. If you've been to church anytime, I don't care, from growing up, there's a lot of conflict in churches. Right? Right now we have a good harmony here, but there'll be a nick one time. My wife will say something to me and we'll be ready to have war together. Right? We're going to split the church with me and my wife. We're on Joe's side, Angie's side. No. But people are ready to split because, we're going to have Sunday night services starting up, or we're going to have we're going to split churches because of, why? We're going to change the carpet to green. Why? The things they fight over. To me, ladies, whatever color you want, pick it. I'm good. I'm coming to church. I don't care what color's in here. That's where it just blows me away from what people fight over. Right? Now, I do see where churches fight over money a lot of times, because allegation money should go to the right places all the time. And I see that issue happening, but we don't have that issue here right now. Right? Hopefully we'll never have that problem, but I've seen it in churches before. And that's where I think Galatians come in and diffuse a lot of some of the issues of the church. It's more talking about, and that's where Galatians, if you can't really use Galatians to get anybody saved, Galatians is more for salvation, young Christians. If you're a Christian, ain't been walking with the Lord for long, this is a good book for you to read, because it helps you understand a lot of the laws. A lot of Paul's writing is great, because you think about it, Paul was a young Christian, right? He was killing Christians at one point, so he was young. So his development, what he grew into, he wrote about it. And that's where I think a lot of us can relate with Paul. We can go back there and relate to Job a little bit, because it feels like our whole life falls apart sometimes, and say, God, why? But if we stay with it, and then we see it change around and go, oh, now I know why. And so, but I think a lot of Paul's writings are so good to younger Christians. I know this is people that have been in churches for years and everything, but it's not bad to understand it. So when somebody from work that comes in and goes, hey, you go, you know what? That helped me when I was younger. Didn't even realize it, but it would probably help that Christian out. That's where the Bible is so handy. I tell you, I read the Bible a lot, right? And it feels like sometimes they don't do anything for me. You go, what? Really? But then all of a sudden somebody will ask me a question and I know that could help them. God gave it to me to help them. Then I realize the spiritual impact that they have on that person, that God helped me. Then and it's like, oh, God, thank you. I needed that. Right? That's what that was meant about that. And then sometimes, and I don't know if you ever done this, and I've done it, I won't say a million times because I'll be a lie, but you'll read something, have no impact on you. A month later, something will hit you and you're like, now I know what that meant. That's pretty good, right? And it's so amazement of that, right? I mean, because we all can relate to Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. Right? We can relate to that. We understand that one. But there's just some of them, right? I like 3:16. Everybody go, oh yeah, John, nope. It's 2 Timothy 3:16. For the Bible is for reproof and for correction. Right? I like that one because that one right there, if you dig into that verse right there, man, it's powerful. I like the fruits of the Bible, right? That's where Galatians come in, where Paul comes in and writes to younger Christians. That's why I like the New Testament. I think preachers like the New Testament too, because it's easier somewhat to preach. Our pastor preaches a lot of Old Testament, which I love that because it's harder to read some of that stuff and to get the information. I mean, he did one here, and I loved it about the timeline of Christ. I've heard him do it twice, and I love it each time because I'm like, man, that, right? Me, begotten. I already forgotten half the names. I don't have no clue what they mean. That drives me. I can't get through, what is it, Exodus or Deuteronomy with all them begottens in it, or both. I mean, it's just like a whole chapter of begotten, and I'm like, wow, why? But there's importance to it. But he knows how to pick that out. He's great on that, right? So if you're out there and you're struggling, yeah, that's where you do the New Testament. I always say, young Christian, read the New Testament, jump in the Old Testament later, right? You'll find out. Or go to church with a good pastor. We got one here, likes Old Testament. You know, you'll learn stuff. But get back into Galatians, the chapter 3 and 4 is going to be an explanation why he's writing the letter. When we get into chapter 3 and 4, it's going to be, hey guys, this is why I'm writing these letters. I'm writing this letter to you for this reason. First, he's going to diffuse all the bombs about to go off. Because when you have, I won't say women, but you have church members, any church members, there's men like that too, right? To get in, and there's a lot of bickering going on with each other. Pastors got to do a lot of diffusing. You know, and that's why I tell you, that's the hardest thing as a pastor and assistant pastor is watching for the bombs, because you got to go click the one with the shortest wick first. I mean, one thing got a long wick. I mean, my wick's so long, you ain't got to worry about it. I'm never going to go off, right? But what'll happen is somebody will try to come in the middle and burn it and make it go off quicker. I don't get mad usually, right? Now, I can set my wife off with one word, right? My one word is, huh? And it'll set her off. Because she's like, you weren't listening to me. Because I'll say it twice, and then she won't tell me a third time. Right? That one word drives her nut is, huh? Because she'll say something, I'll go, huh? Or what? Right? And I set her off. But if you guys say, huh, what, wouldn't probably bother you at all. But I've said it so many times. That's my favorite word for her. Right? No, it isn't. But it's the word I use because I can't hear. So it's going to explain why he's writing the letter. So when we get to chapter 3 and 4, we're going to understand why Paul is writing these letters, to understand who he's talking to. And then 5 and 6 is going to be the application, how to use these laws and everything he's saying. So first he's going to try to diffuse all the problems, explain why he's writing the letters, and then 5 and 6, he's going to do the application on how to use this law. So when we get into the folders and start going in it, we're going to go step by step. And like I said, I'm going to probably do a whole chapter, but we won't get through a whole chapter in a week. If we do, I'm going way too fast, right? And we'll slow it down. And this is going to be on you guys too. I'm thinking I might give you guys, I'm going to give you the whole book. So if you want to try to go ahead and guess some of them answers, I don't know about you. Everyone that ever done that, it's like a similar word, but it's never the word. Right? I don't know where they come up with them words because it don't match my Bible half the time. Right? It means the same thing, but they come up with some weird words to put in on spots sometimes. Sometimes I think they just find the letters that match, like AAA or PPP. You know, I don't know why they do that, but they do that a lot. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the background of it. It says Jews greatly outnumbered the Gentiles in the early churches, such as the ones of Galilee. These many questions and issues arise when the non-Jews came into the church. The Judaizers, a group of Jews believers, followed Paul as he evangelized. They insisted that the Gentiles believers must submit to circumcision. That was one of the things I was saying. They were saying they had to get circumcised. So that's where one of the biggest things that we're going to find in this book, that the circumcision is going to come in play. Right? I think when God first said to do that, he realized back in that time when people were first created, the biggest issue was a cleanness. They couldn't clean themselves that well because in the middle of a desert, you ain't got much water. So babies would come infected and die, and young boys would die if they weren't circumcised. So God said, hey, get saved. I'm going to look out for you do this, and your boys will be taken care of. And I think that's what it was more for, thinking about it over the times. But that's just my own opinion. I don't know why God said circumcised at that time and then said now it's no longer have to do it. You know, but I believe it was a cleanness of it, and that was the reason behind it. So, and then it said Moses, in order to be saved, that was the book of Gentile is Paul's response to the enormous teaching salvation is a gift. And that's something else we're going to find out, is that a lot of people will say you can't be saved unless you do. They're looking into works. And that's where I think Galatians also talks about how it's a gift. It wasn't given to people for, you could purchase it, you can receive it by works or doing. It was just a gift. And that's where a lot of churches get it messed up today. And we'll probably get some bad reviews today because I said that. But being saved is no work salvation. It's a belief in your heart, a spoken with a tongue that you speak and say, God, come in my heart and save you. You say, can people say that and not get saved? Yes. If your best friend goes up and gets saved, you say, I'm going to go get saved because of my best friend, and you don't believe it, no, you didn't trust Jesus in your heart. But if you say, hey, I don't want to go to hell, I want to trust Jesus to keep me to go to heaven, and you truly believe, I can think you can be, 3, 4? I think we got a lot of people here got saved young. Angie, you were 4 or 5? 6, sorry. Well, 5. Any younger? How old were you, Maddie, when you got saved? 9? 8? He said 8. I can't hear you. I'm half deaf. I'm 8. Anybody else that was young? Very young? I was 8. But at 8 years old, I trusted Jesus Christ at a Awanas meeting in the front. And then I went to Mrs. Whitley, and she showed me the Wordless Bible, and she led me to the Lord on the Sunday school bus. It was May 1st, 1980, right? I was 8 years old. And it's crazy to think about it, is when I was 14, and Lee and Maddie and Brittany and Angie, since they were young ones, they know this. Did you do anything wrong from after you got saved until now? Right? We got saved at a young age. We weren't perfect. None of us. I was a mean little kid at 8 to 14. I mean, I wanted to fight God when I was 14. I went out in the middle of the street, asked God to come down to fight me. And you go, what? Yeah, I wanted to fight God. And you go, why did you want to fight God? Because, cover your ears, hon. My girlfriend left me. My dog died. And my dad was gone for a while, and I had a stepdad. My dad died when he was 5. And I looked at God in the middle of the street and pointed up and said, you don't love me. Everything I love, you take away from me. And I was mad at him. I shook my fist and said, if you don't love me, kill me right now. I want to die, or you come down and fight me. I'm glad he didn't send an angel, because look at what the angel did to Joseph. I mean, touched his rib and broke it. I don't want that. Was it a rib? I might be wrong. Thigh. Okay. Yeah, misspoke. I knew it. Broke a bone. I mean, he just touched him. Can you imagine what God did? You might not have to do that. Just look at me. I mean, and that's how crazy. And so I wasn't a perfect kid. When I was 18, I was called to preach. You know what I did? I ran off to the military, right? And nothing wrong with the military. I love our military folks, but that's where God can use us even after we get saved, even after we fall. And I believe Paul, I mean, he was horrible before he was saved. Once he got saved, he went on the right track. I mean, all of us would love to say, hey, once I got saved, man, I stayed on the right track. Every one of us can say, once I got saved, you know how many mistakes I made? Shoot, I could probably name all the mistakes I've named this week. Well, I couldn't name all the mistakes, but I'd probably tell you a lot of mistakes I made this week. We all do it, you know? I mean, as much as somebody goes, hey, how you doing? Oh, you going to church? Yep, bye. You know? Because you're in a hurry to get to church and say, yeah, let me tell you about the Lord, you know? I mean, we all do it. I mean, because a guy, his name was D at the register, right? We talked to him a little bit, and then he said, you have a blessed day. And I said, you too. But pretty much that was it. I remember his name for whatever reason. It was D-E-E. And I was like, oh, D. Right? I mean, but he was a nice fella. Didn't tell him about the Lord, really. He told me, have a blessed day. He saw that we were in church clothes. But that's how many times we do that. We pass up opportunity to witness to somebody. And maybe he's saved, but the cashier behind him might not have been. That would have overheard it, right? That's where we get so many times we miss opportunities. Hopefully Galatians, because the theme of Galatians is only by God do we enter and live Christ's life. So the only way we enter in Christ's life is by Jesus and by God's power and live a life for Christ. So if we're not saved, we won't get saved, right? But this is going to show us that that's the theme, only God, right? And so that's one of the themes there. The key verses are going to be grace and liberty, not by our own good works, but only by the grace of God are we justified and brought into relationship with God. This liberty God has granted us is made possible by Christ's payment for our sins and the Holy Spirit leading us from sin's bondage. So that's going to be our key words, grace and liberty, right? Which is amazing, right? How we can use some of these words that God's given us, right? Grace. We all understand what grace is, most of us. Some of us, me, because there's always the ones you have to look out for is mercy and grace. I don't know which pastor did it, but they did a definition thing on mercy and grace. They're two different words. They mean two different things, but they got a lot of similarity. But you got to watch what grace means and what mercy. See, a lot of times people will mess that up and say, oh, God gives me grace to go out and do what I want to do. No, he gives you mercy to do that, right? Because he should just take you back home, right? But he gives you mercy. It's different between grace and mercy, and you got to understand that. But the key word here, liberty, right? Like that, he gives us liberty to teach his word. So that's something else. The outlines, I don't know exactly the outline on the paperwork. I don't think they gave me one. But in my introduction of Galatians in my Bible, it says the outline, chapter 1 is the only gospel. That's the outline for chapter 1. Chapter 2 is by Paul calling by grace and acceptance by the apostle. And then chapter 2 through 4 is explanation, which I kind of told you that earlier, why he's writing it. And then, excuse me, chapter 5 is freedom in Christ. And then chapter 6 is the final blessings that he's going to give us for following these things as a younger and an older Christian. Because, see, that's one thing, and I'll probably wrap it up on that, because it's about that time, right? One thing we don't understand, right? We see stuff like, trust in, for John 3:16 for God, and we tell people how to get saved and everything like that. But we miss the key parts that he's telling us as Christians to keep all the time. Galatians might be to young Christians and understand them, but being older Christians, we need to apply some of this stuff back into our lives. Because the one that I see a lot, and I know pastors preached on this and other pastors, is sometimes we forget our first love, right? Because what happens is when you get saved and you get love in Christ, what do we do? Me is all me. I want to be. Then all of a sudden after a year, where's so-and-so at? Hey, you want to, not this week, maybe next week. And that happens to all of us. I mean, you get into what they call a rut. And a lot of times that's where you got to go back and apply a lot of the old new stuff for new Christians. You go, what do you mean by that? Yeah, just go back to the basics. When you go work out, you don't go pick up a 500-pound barbell and go, yeah, I'm good to go. What do? You go back to 5 pounds, then 10 pounds. You go back to the basics. If you don't do it, if you get up to 15 and then skip 3 months, them 15 pounds are going to be heavy. You got to go back to the basic. And that's where I think Galatians will help all of us, right? And we'll get going and we'll get you the booklets. And I'm going to ask a lot of questions for you guys to answer. I'm not just going to give you all the answers. I'm going to try to work it out of you guys. So it'll be a little bit more me, less preaching, hopefully, in Sunday school, and more teaching. It's going to be something new for me. I've never done an outline, fill in the blanks. I mean, I've gone through the books with little kids, but it was more preaching, not teaching. So this one's going to be fun for me to do, more studying for me to do. So I'll pray with you guys. I know today wasn't more about, it was a Sunday school hour. It wasn't more about church. I wasn't here to preach. It was more teaching a couple of things. So hopefully I taught you a little bit about it, and we'll learn more about the South and North Galatians maybe. Galatians. I mean, every time I say it, it sounds like I say it wrong. I've got to listen to how I pronunciate it because I know I'm saying it wrong. But I'll pray and let you guys go, and Pastor will come in. They'll watch. I'll let you guys have a few minutes of fellowship. Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this Sunday school hour. Thank you for the introduction of the Galatians. Just help me get the message out through this book to our members and new members coming and all the visitors that'll be here, Lord, throughout this time, and that we can just serve you the way you want us to do. Thank you for this hour. Thank you for our pastor. Give him the message he'll have for the next hour. And